Hi, my name is Amy, and I just wanted to welcome you to my PDHPE podcast that focuses on K to 6. I'm really excited to share my learning journey throughout this unit, as it has really opened my eyes to things that I had never thought about before. So first, I'm just going to quickly do an introduction of the PE syllabus and the rationale. Personal development, health, and physical education, or PHPE, is a key subject for K to 6. The subject promotes the student's health, safety, well-being, and one's physical activity. PE helps to support the whole development of a child physically, emotionally, and mentally, which is obviously very important. Specifically, the subject helps students to explore and form their identity, healthy relationships, health-based decisions, and safety strategies. The PE syllabus has a rationale that states that the subject equips students with the knowledge, skills, and values that make healthy and, most importantly, informed life choices. The subject fosters skills such as resilience, empathy, decision-making, and personal responsibility. In itself, PHPE encourages physical activity through games and movement where students will improve their coordination, confidence, and teamwork. The learning experiences within this subject are very inclusive, so they cater to the diverse needs of each student in their learning. Overall, the PHP subject builds a strong bond between lifelong health, well-being, and being active. This next part is just going to be about the game sense approach, or GSA. So the game sense approach is a teaching model that utilizes games to teach skills and decision making. The GSA moves around from drill mastery and focuses more on playing a game to learn the skills before actually mastering them. Kasharov and Mohammad Zadeh 2022 found that using a games-based approach improved the motor skills of the students that they perform their study on, emphasizing its importance in physical education. In addition, the GSA also emphasizes game-based learning helps students develop skills through modifying inclusive games. I really believe that GSA makes learning more fun for students, and it lets students be more active, like more of an active participant rather than a passive learner. The approach promotes critical thinking, teamwork, and communication, which is one of the main strengths, and it really does strengthen the approach because each game is able to be modified to make it easier or harder depending on the subject, making it really accessible to every single student. The GSA directly links to the PDHPE syllabus as it supports the outcomes in the movement and physical activity strain NESAR 2018. The GSA, just to wrap it up, encourages students to reflect on their roles and actions within a team as well. Next is just going to be my personal reflections about 4 tutorials. So this first one's going to be about the very first tutorial that I did. As the first tutorial, we focused on the navigation and unpacking of the PDHPE syllabus. In doing this, I was able to deepen my understanding of the syllabus and its structure, content, strands, and the actual outcomes. In this tutorial, I learnt how the outcomes and content were sequenced, and how they create a subject that is inclusive. During this part of the tutorial, we were taught, how to sequence the outcomes and content, and how they all work together to create a inclusive, appropriate lesson for both theory and practical. There was actually one activity that really stood out to me. In this activity, we all had to stand up and walk to the side of the room depending on if we agreed, weren't sure, or disagreed with the comment that was on the board. This activity really stood out to me because I was able to get different perspectives about what people have experienced and if they were confident in teaching PE. A study conducted by Randall and Fleet found that pre-service teachers have a limited experience while teaching PE, which also aligned with many opinions for the people in that tutorial. This activity promoted my critical reflection skills as I was made to think about what others had experienced and not just what my personal experience was. This activity allowed me to hear the diverse opinions of others and challenge my own thinking about inclusion and the purpose of PE. As a result of this lesson, I actually learnt how to identify the appropriate outcomes while also realizing and understanding the intent of the outcomes, focusing not only just on isolating those activities. This tutorial was able to boost my confidence in understanding and implementing the syllabus while also strengthening my critical thinking and collaboration skills, because again, that activity was really impactful because I was able to hear how some people were not able to participate in PE, how their experience was in a different country. It was really, really impactful to me. Next, I would just be talking about the tutorial 3, which is about volleyball and how GSA and volleyball can be combined together. During this tutorial, I had the opportunity to play many games that actually helped me with the skills needed to play volleyball. These so-called mini games helped me to engage in the game sense approach very thoroughly. While learning games related to volleyball, like King's Court, Keepy Ups, and modified versions of Nuke and Ball, I learned that GSA is a very student-centered approach that requires inquiry-based learning. This approach focuses on playing games to develop tactical awareness before actually performing and perfecting every skill. The GSA was utilized in this lesson as it prioritized movement, modification, and team strategies. Through modified volleyball games, I learnt to focus on decision-making, positioning, and communication with my teammates. In that, using GSA in my lessons will help me to teach movement skills and the ability to positively interact with other games. During this tutorial, I developed my personal ability to ask guided questions, mostly to myself, about where the best place for me to move was, what was the best technique, and all of that. Learning through play really allowed for me to discover my very own techniques and what I liked to use through experience. And I hope that my future classes will also be able to do this because it really did help me. Participating in a space that utilizes the GSA helped me to understand how I can create inclusive and meaningful experiences for my students in the future surrounding the PE syllabus, as this was something that I wasn't quite comfortable with yet. Fletcher 2021 writes that creating meaningful experiences in PE really does help foster commitment to commitment to physical activity in general. Experiencing the GSA also strengthened my ability to differentiate my lessons as the approach prioritizes deeper understanding instead of performance. This lesson was able to reshape the way I viewed teaching the PE subject, as I now value the role of games as a possible learning tool instead of just something that is done to warm up, essentially. Next will just be about the Indigenous games. This was tutorial 4, another practical one, obviously. During this tutorial, I had a hands-on experience with a range of different traditional Indigenous games, and they were Kai, Gori, and Kolap. Specifically, my group had to teach everyone how to play Kai, and that was basically keeping the ball in the air without it letting touch the ground. Wrench and Garrett 2021 stressed the importance of Indigenous games in education, as it ensures that students are at an educational advantage I did actually see this first person when I was on placement, as one of the little Indigenous boys that were in my class was really excited when we actually implemented some activities from his culture. I found it quite interesting that a lot of the games were some that I had experienced without knowing it. So I was playing these games when I was little without even knowing their significance to the Indigenous community. It was very interesting learning about what equipment needed to be used and how that translated to what objects were used when Indigenous children had no equipment. So that was if they were using seeds or rocks or sticks or leaves. It was very interesting to me. In participating in these games, I became more aware of my responsibility to include traditional games in my teaching, as this tutorial changed my perspective quite a lot. The Indigenous games played in this tutorial link directly to the syllabus, as the games focus on performing movement skills throughout moving and catching. These games also drew on the importance of using teamwork skills and turn taking, making it fair to all who played, because that is also a very important. This tutorial also helped me modify games in different ways, making it easier to be able to cater to all ability types when teaching in the future. The lesson furthered my practices in creating safe, inclusive, culturally respectful environments when participating in PE. Through this tutorial, I was able to discover how simple games like Kai, Gori, and Kolak can spark rich conversations around culture, identity, and how it can really respect people in the group, because people were really sharing their personal experience. It was a very enriching environment. The lesson improved and strengthened my confidence in planning and teaching cultural PDHPE lessons. I was able to gain new insight into practical strategies when it comes to cultural appreciation through physical activity. In addition, this tutorial helped me understand that these cultural responsive pedagogies foster social and emotional growth in every child. Leggetti and Spage 2022 support the use of culturally responsive pedagogies in their teaching as well, which is very important. During this tutorial, I gained a clear understanding about sexuality education and my legal obligation to stay with my class, even when an outside source is teaching. In that, I learnt the importance of creating a safe, supportive environment, especially when teaching sexuality education, as the students need to feel secure and respected. In this tutorial, I found to be the most interesting is that as teachers, we actually can't use role play for troubling topics, as it is highly inappropriate. And instead, we should be using narratives so every student gets the same experience. A study conducted by McCannon and Peeney 2013 found that using narratives in PE helps the teachers and students to talk about bodies in troubling topics. I was able to explore how content was and wasn't appropriate for age groups, as personal experiences were shared. This segment of the tutorial also helps me to understand what I teach must be backed up from information in the syllabus, so no information can get mixed up and I can actually justify what I've taught. The most interesting part of this was when my tutor was sharing a personal experience that she had with one of her placement students around the sexuality education. I found this interesting also because it's something that I had never heard of before. However, the most interesting part was that parents can actually opt out of teaching their students about sexuality education. And I found this really interesting because I'd never experienced a student being exempt from learning about these topics. With my experience with sexuality education, it was very inconsistent. So this unit really helped me to understand what to teach and how to teach it. Ezra and Colognes 2020 also reported that students feel that they had inconsistent in teaching in this subject, highlighting the reason for educating pre-service teachers on sexuality education. I do have to say that this is probably the most insightful tutorial, as it has helped me approach sensitive topics with clarity and professionalism. I can now say that I'm a committed, confident teacher who will advocate for safe, respectful, and age-appropriate education for all students. Now, just to quickly wrap up, I have learnt that PE doesn't just support a student's physical well-being, but also their emotional and their cognitive development. In that PE isn't only about well-being, it is also about safety, inclusivity, and respectful relationships. Through this unit, I now value a more student approach, such as GSA. Because of this unit, I can now plan inclusive, culturally respectful lessons that are based on outcomes and are age appropriate. The learning in this unit included practical activities and application. The lessons that included games around the Indigenous community and volleyball showed me that the theory component directly connects to the real-life classroom. The theory lessons also helped me build a deeper understanding of my ethical considerations. Due to this subject, I feel more confident and I am now motivated and more confident when I'm teaching it. And through my experience, I can support children and I can now be prepared to teach those sensitive topics with professionalism. I am also now committed to ongoing learning around PE subject, focusing on how I can make my lessons more meaningful, safe, and engaging for all students. And that is the end. Thank you.